everyone, welcome back to Callie and Beans Books. I'm Brittany, and today it is time for my October book corner. I did complete the readathon only a couple days late, and I'm actually really excited about the books that I listened to and read for the readathon, so I'll go over those. I have 5 books that I hauled from our monthly trip to Half Price and Barnes, so I'll go over those, and then I'll also go over the books that I have planned to read for the month of November. For the first book I picked up at Barnes, it's Battle Royal by Lucy Parker. Second, this one is all over TikTok, and I'm really excited about it, and that is The Love Hypothesis by Hazelwood, and I'm really excited to jump into this one. Other book that I picked up from Barnes is one highly recommended from Callie and Sarah, and I've heard really good things about, and that is The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. I've heard some really good things about it, and I cannot wait to pick this one up at Half Price. I was debating picking this up at Barnes, so I'm actually really excited I found it at Half Price, and that is Faker by Sarah Smith. I found this a couple months ago, and I wasn't quite ready to commit to it, so finding it at Half Price actually really helped me out, and I'm looking forward to this. I'm super excited about this find, and that is Godsgrave by Jay Kristoff. And the reason I'm excited about it, it's because it's a different edition. So there's pictures on both front and the back covers, and it's signed. So I'm not entirely sure what edition it is, but it was US printed, but I'm not sure if it came from like a box or if it was a special publication, because Callie and Sarah didn't recognize the artwork, so I was really curious about it, and I'm really excited about this find. All right, going into the books I read for the readathon, I'm going to start in order that I finished them. I can't remember exactly which books I started with, so I'm guesstimating, but these are the books I finished. First, I read A Touch of Darkness by Scarlett St. Clair, and this is a Hades and Persephone retelling. So the prompts it worked for was A Dance with the Devil and spooky bookstagram worthy cover. I completely forgot to post it on my Instagram for bookstagram, completely forgot, and it's actually Callison's copy, so I no longer have it in my possession, so I kind of failed on half of that because I didn't post it, but it is still a really cool cover. Overall, I gave A Touch of Darkness a 4 out of 5. I absolutely loved the story. It's a really interesting concept where gods and goddesses actually live with mortals, and they have businesses and empires, and it's actually really interesting. It takes place in the modern world, and I thought it was so cool. I really enjoyed Persephone and Hades' relationship, the way it was building and their character development. I absolutely loved it. And I did pick up A Touch of Ruin right away this month. I actually finished it in one sitting, so I will touch on that later. But I absolutely adore this series so far and cannot wait to continue reading it. The next book I picked up was Kingdom of Flesh and Fire by Jennifer L. Armentrout, and this was the book I chose for Has a Monster prompt. It has vampires and wolven, who are kind of werewolves, I guess, but not really, and I absolutely adore this series. Overall, I gave this a 4 out of 5 as well. From Blood and Ash is the first one, and I did struggle to get through that one, but now it's like a whirlwind of I need answers and I need them now. So I'm really excited where the story is going. The cliffhanger at the end of the second one definitely made me want to jump into the third one right away, but I did wait, and I'm reading it now. So that's my current read, which I will get into a little bit later. Pretty much picking up where we left Poppy at the end of From Blood and Ash, but we learned so much more about Hawk and their relationship and secrets and spoilers that I can't dive into, but the writing style is amazing, and I did truly enjoy this story. It took me a couple of days to get through because it is quite the honking story, but I absolutely adored it. It was one of my favorites of the month for sure. The next book I picked up for the month of October for the readathon was Daughter of the Pirate King by Tricia Levenseller. For prompts, this fell under the Blood on the Cover, and I read this entirely at night. This was actually a one-sitting book for me. I started at like 5 o'clock and went to bed at like midnight so I can finish it. It was amazing. I gave it a 5 out of 5. Going into it, I was a little nervous because it is YA, and I've spent so much time in adult romance and adult fantasy that I was a little nervous jumping back into YA because I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna feel. But it was really well written. Overall, I did really enjoy the story, and it was a lot of fun. All the twists and turns and things I was kind of predicting would happen, but then there was some unexpected moments that I was like, okay, I like this. So overall, it was a really interesting read, and I cannot wait to see what happens in the sequel. The fourth book I read was Defy the Night by Brigid, Kemmerer, and whew, I loved this story. This book filled the monthly pick, the fall release, and a book with mystery prompts for me, and I gave this a 4 out of 5. I adore this story. It was amazing. I was really nervous because it felt really predictable at the beginning, and I was texting Callison about it, and I was like, totally guessed this, like I knew where this was going, and she's like, haha, just you wait. So that sparked the mystery for me. It's not a typical mystery novel, obviously. It's more of that mystery of who's behind the scenes, who's giving the money to these rebels, like where's all of this coming from, is basically why I called it a mystery for me. I was just so enthralled with all of the characters. I loved the character development. I loved the character relationships. Everything was really well done. I don't really want to spend too much time on the characters because I am worried that I'll accidentally give some spoilers away. So overall, it is a really interesting read and a really interesting concept. I'm excited to see where the series goes. I believe it's a trilogy. The second one comes out next year, but the first one doesn't leave off on a major cliffhanger. That's what I was worried about. We were getting into the nitty-gritty of the revolution and where we were going, and then I was like, oh no, I don't want a cliffhanger. We didn't get a cliffhanger, which is amazing. I can't stand cliffhangers in the first books, especially when I have to wait forever for the next one. So I'm really excited to see where the series goes. The next book I actually listened to Kingdom of the Wicked by Kerri Maniscalco, and this covered a couple of my prompts as well, my creator's pick, as well as gives off the spooky vibes. And overall, it was pretty spooky. I actually really enjoyed the way the audiobook was produced. There was some music in some of the spooky parts, but it wasn't consistent throughout the entire story, which was a little weird. It started in the beginning, and then a couple of other intense parts had some music, but after we hit a halfway point, there was no more spooky music put into it, which was a little weird for me. Overall, I gave it a 3 out of 5. I'm not gonna lie, this was one of those books where I think if I read it, like physically read it instead of listened to it, I probably would have enjoyed it more. The narrator sucked, in my opinion. She had this really weird British accent, but the story takes place in Italy. So I'm like, if you're gonna have an accent, why isn't it Italian? Because the British accent's throwing me off. So I was just really confused on the narrator, and she also made the main character sound very whiny, which she's not supposed to be. She's supposed to be this very strong, independent character trying to solve the mystery of her sister's death, and yet she's this whiny princess, basically. It's rolling my eyes a lot, and I get it. It's probably the YA tropes coming out, but overall, I just didn't feel as connected to the story. I was really excited about it, but I didn't get as connected to the characters as I thought I would. And I honestly blame a lot of it on the narration. Maybe if I actually sat down and read the book, it would be different. Even though I'm actually really interested to see where the series goes, I'm a little nervous because of the way the first one ended. So overall, I'm a little disappointed, but I'm hopeful that if I go back and reread it, I'll have a different vibe from the story. So originally going into the readathon, I chose the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendricks as my mystery read. I DNF'd this book at page 234. I hate this book. Takes a lot for me to say that. I hated it. It sucked. I DNF'd it. My first DNF ever. I raged with this story. I was texting Callison. I raged to John. I was not a fan of this story at all. I tried, but as soon as we got to the part where the wife and the main character is being berated by her husband for a suicide attempt, I couldn't do it anymore. This book is supposed to take place in the 90s, right? But I got a lot more vibe from the 50s. Granted, it's the South, and the South works a little bit differently, but not to the point of how this was portrayed. It didn't make any sense to me. One of my favorite shows was Desperate Housewives on ABC, and that's kind of what I was expecting. That's not what I got. I got a lot of judgment. I got a lot of resentment. I got a lot of weird, creepy vibes, and not a lot of what I was anticipating going into the story. Absolutely hated it. Don't recommend it. Don't know where all those 5 out of 5 star ratings are coming from, because I absolutely loathed the story. And with what Callison said with the ending, I'm really happy I just stopped and didn't finish the book. The next book I listened to was The Ex Hex by Erin Sterling. I gave this a 3.5 out of 5. It didn't fall under any of my prompts, I realized, but it was a really nice October read. Follows a coven of witches and a curse in a small town, and overall I did enjoy the story. I mean, it worked great for an October Halloween read, but I wasn't too impressed. I heard some really fun things about it. It just was very vanilla when it comes to adult romance, which isn't fair, but I read a lot of adult romance, so it takes a lot for me to be impressed, I think. And this was just one that was kind of vanilla and middle of the road, which cleansed the palate with all the other books that I listened to and read this month. But overall, it was very like, meh, okay. Going into my November TBR, I already mentioned that I have read and finished A Touch of Ruin by Scarlett St. Clair. This is the follow-up to Touch of Darkness. I love it. I won't dive too much into it, but I thoroughly enjoyed the story. I read it in one sitting. It's amazing. I highly recommend picking up the series, especially if you're looking to dive into more of a darker adult romance. Next, and my current read, is The Crown of Gilded Bones by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is the third in the From Blood and Ash series. I'm about 125 pages into it, and it's everything that I was looking for in the follow-up to the sequel, and I'm looking forward to where the story goes. However, I'm also really, really nervous because I've heard that you want to throw the book against the wall when you get to the ending, which that makes me nervous, but at the same time, it is what it is. I need answers from the first two, so here we go. The next book that I have on my TBR is Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas. This is the second in the Throne of Glass series. I did pick this up at the end of September, set it down for the readathon, kind of forgot I had it in my stacks, and now I want to get back into it. Hopefully read the rest of the Throne of Glass series this year, but it's probably going to be the next couple of months. I do look forward to the rest of the series though, because I'm hearing a lot more amazing things. And yes, I know I'm really late. The Throne of Glass party. I get it. I'm super late, but I need it in my life. So that's everything for my October book corner. Be sure to head over to our channel and subscribe. We post new videos every Tuesday, Thursdays, and some Sundays. Be sure to hit that bell icon to be notified when we do post new videos, and head over to Instagram and Goodreads. All of our individual and joint accounts will be linked in the description below. Until next time, bye.